Horses are stepping onto the track for this evening's first race. Fillies and mares conditioned pace of 1 mile, a purse of $2,700. Win place show exacta trifecta first half of the early daily double, a field of 10, no changes. The one is Express Lane 2, owned by Donald Lane of Galena, Ohio, trained by Jim Pollock Jr. with the K-Man, Kayne Kauffman. Number 2 is WOOLRIDGE Can Win, owned and trained by Ray Belt of South Charleston, Ohio, Bob Harper. The 3 is Ms. Oak, owned and trained by John Perrin of Lebanon, Ohio, with Danny Noble. Number 4 is TRIPPY, owned by Bernice Monar of Northfield, Ohio, trained by Daryl Hoosier with Kyle Wader. Number 5 is I Need New Nikes, owned by James Hassel and Gary Moyer, both of the Buckeye State, trained by Calvin Holler, Brett Miller. The 6 is CINCY Kathy G, owned by Thomas Price of Cincinnati, Ohio, trained and driven by Jack Dailey. The 7 is WILLIE is a filly, owned by William Spangler of Galion, Ohio, trained by Ray Spurn with Jeff Fout. The 8 is BEEPZIPTANG, owned by Nina Sams of Chillicothe, Ohio, trained by Ronald Miller with Jim Dailey. From the outside of the 9 is Free Dream, owned by Sharma Kutschbach of Chillicothe, Ohio, trained by Jerry Kutschbach with Sam Chipnoble III. And scoring from off the second tier is number 10, Winning Connection, owned by Blankenship and Hickey. They're all of the Buckeye State, trained by Tom Blankenship. Sandy Beatty is in her sulky. To the back stretch to kick off the early daily double at Ohio's showplace of racing, Scioto Downs. They're all fan pacing in a very even start. Middle of the track, there goes the 5, I Need New Nikes. Driving up from the outside, there is WILLIE as a filly. Along the inside, Express Lane 2 has come away racing in 3. WOOLRIDGE Can Win comes away racing in 4th. 5th from off the second tier, that is Winning Connection. 6th is Ms. Oak. 7th on the inside, that is Tricky Trippy. 8th, that is CINCY Kathy G. And the 2 trailers here are BEEPZIPTANG and Free Dream Can See 'Em All. As they move by the opening quarter in a very quick 26 4/5 as they pass the stands for the first time and head on down to the half. And I Need New Nikes. And Brett Miller here leads it by a length and a quarter as they roll under the wire with 5/8 of a mile remaining. Along the inside, Express Lane 2 is right there in the garden spot, tracking in second. Along the inside, WILLIE as a filly is racing in third. First to Flush and coming with a rush on the outside in fourth, that is WOOLRIDGE Can Win. Along the inside in 5 is Ms. Oak. Second over the outside, racing in 6th is Winning Connection. As they reach the half, they're halfway home in 57 2/5. Off the turn and setting sail down the backside. On top, I Need New Nikes. Leads it here by length and a quarter. Express Lane 2 is still right there in the garden spot, waiting in second. Up on the outside, WOOLRIDGE Can Win is first over, grinding it out in third. Along the inside, WILLIE as a filly is racing in 4th. Winning Connection is ready to swing 3 deep off that cover there in 5th. Third over on the outside, racing in 6th is Tricky Trippy. They're at 3/4 in 125 4/5. They'll pace the final turn and head for home. And on top of the field, I Need New Nikes is getting a whip hand on the outside. Left-handed whip of Brett Miller to the inside. Express Lane 2 is challenging in second. Off the turn and less than 1/8 of a mile to go. And down the stretch they come. I Need New Nikes with the lead here. Taking a shot is Express Lane 2, but as they roll within the final 16, Scott Piney's Budweiser best bet of the night. I Need New Nikes. Express Lane 2 to go second. WOOLRIDGE Can Win was third. The top of the mile, 153 4/5. I Need New Nikes and a new lifetime mark. Trackside of the winner's circle to be greeted by Angie Barker. She'll do throughout the evening. Here's the 5, I Need New Nikes. A 6-year-old bay mare by Towner's Big Guy out of a HR's Happy Fax mare. She by Happy Escort. Is owned by James Hassel and Gary Moyer, both of the Buckeye State. Trained by Calvin Holler. Nicely handled here this evening by wedding driver Brett Miller. Home in a new lifetime mark, 153 4/5, establishing her 4th win in 2003. The 5, I Need New Nikes, and Brett Miller. Kathy Hawk brings him out for tonight's second race. The fillies and mares claiming handicap pace of 1 mile, a purse of $3,000. Win place show exacta trifecta wagering a field of 8, no changes. The 1 is Graham's Cam, owned and trained by David Warnstaff of Ashley, Ohio. Bob Harper is up. The 2 is Mega Rose, owned by Bruce Roberts of Batavia, Ohio, and Cooley Smith of Omaha, Nebraska, trained by Larry Tinch with Jack Dailey. The 3 is Prina, owned by Rocky Catley of Fayetteville, Tennessee, trained by Tommy Smith with Tony Hall. The 4 is Flying Apache, owned by Newton, you can call me Newt, Thomas of Columbus, Ohio, trained by Lloyd Hawk with Brett Miller. The 5 is APRILTIME Kim, owned by Hushang Momanpour of Lexington, Kentucky, trained by Lamar Moody with Jeff Ace Nisonger. Number 6 is Martinsville Girl, owned by Michael Ray West of Louisville, Kentucky, trained by Jeff Brewer, Jason Brewer at the lines. The 7 is Lake Hills Lisa, owned and trained by John Nelson Perrin of Lebanon, Ohio, with Sandy Beatty. And for the outside of the 8 is Go By Air, owned by Calvin Lamb of Marion, Ohio, trained by Jim Pollock Jr. Jeff Fout is in her sulky. This field is in motion. They're all fan pacing an early foot there by the 4, Flying Apache, and she's flying for the lead here from the inside. Graham's Cam is looking to come away in the garden spot, racing in 2. Mega Rose down along the inside has come away in 3rd. 4th, that is Prina. 5th on the inside is APRILTIME Kim. 6th is Martinsville Girl. 7th on the inside is Lake Hills Lisa. And 8th and trailing the field is Go By Air and Fout can see them all as they race around the first turn and over to the opening quarter. And Graham's Cam right back to the front end here. Opening panel in 28 1/5 as they pass the stands for the first time and march on down to the half. And Graham's Cam and Bob Harper has placed this one on the front end here, only to get by a length and a quarter. Flying Apache is right there in the garden spot, racing in 2. First to Flush on the outside, racing in 3rd. That is Mega Rose, who is carrying along Prina there on the outside in 4th. Buried at the rail in 5 is Martinsville Girl. To the outside of the cover flow, racing in 6th. That is APRILTIME Kim. 7th on the inside is Lake Hills Lisa. And 8th and trailing the field, but a swing to the outside by Go By Air. As they reach the half, they're halfway home in 59 1/5. A second panel with 31 seconds flat. We're double tiered here. We got 4 in and 4 out as they make their way down the backside. Graham's Cam is leading it here by a neck. Up on the outside, Mega Rose is applying heavy pressure on the outside, racing in 2, and now sticks a nose in front. Along the inside, Flying Apache is watching over these dueling leaders from 3. 4th on the outside, that is Prina, now making her move from the back of the pack, flipping out 3 deep. Here comes Go By Air. 3/4 in 1:28 1/5. Backside, 29 seconds flat. They'll pace the final turn and head for home. On top of the field, Graham's Cam with the lead here. Flying Apache is right there, waiting to take a shot at her from the pocket, and Go By Air is left. 3 wide to the outside. Off the turn to the top of Power Alley. Less than 1/8 of a mile to go, and down the stretch they come. Graham's Cam with the lead, but Flying Apache is flying in the super stretch, and Flying Apache is getting up. Flying Apache gets up to win it. Finishing second was the 1, Graham's Cam. It was very close for 3rd. The time of the mile, 1:57 1/5. Flying Apache and Brett Miller takes the early double. Second race, Fillies and Mares claiming handicap pace through virtue of the super stretch. Here's the 4, Flying Apache. 1:57 1/5 is the time of the mile. A 7-year-old bay mare by Apache Circle out of a Social Friday mare, she by Cedar Ridge, is owned by Newton, you can call me Newt, of Thomas of Columbus, Ohio, trained by Lloyd Hawk. Nicely handled here this evening by winning driver Brett Miller. Brett Miller sweeps the double, giving him a driving double. The 1 is Call Me Jate, owned by the Oldfield Farm, incorporated of Sands Creek, Michigan, trained by Richard Oldfield with Bob Harper. The 2 is Sharponette, owned by Betty Jean Jordan of Clarksville, Ohio, trained by Laura Jordan with Sam Chipnoble III. Number 3 is Casino Charlie, owned by Ronald and Douglas Breckler of Mount Vernon, Ohio, trained by Scott Mogan with Danny Noble. Number 4 is Masterpiece, owned by Scott Boer of Sydney, Ohio, and Conrad Boer of Piqua, Ohio, trained by Dan Ader with Kyle Ader. The 5 is Rakin' in the Bucks, owned by Gary Adams of Circleville, Ohio, trained by Jerry Kutschbach with Kayne Kauffman. Number 6 is Rigatores, owned by Melby Philip Ober Jr. of Cable, Ohio, trained by J. Doug Lowe with Jeff Fout. The 7 is FALCON'S THAW, owned by Diane Miller of Archbold, Ohio, and Patty Roth of Wasion, Ohio, trained by Mike Roth with Brett Miller. Number 8 is Stinky Flynn, owned by James Cargo of Morrow, Ohio, trained and driven by Jack Dailey. Number 9 is Albion What Punctual, owned by Jay Sears of Deerfield Beach, Florida, and George Brody of Hudson, Florida, trained and driven by Jay Sears in the sulky. Start. Field in motion. They're all fan pacing and firing away. Middle of the track, there goes the 4 Masterpiece. Off stride went the 6 Rigatores. Coming away middle of the inside, there is Sharpenet. Dropping in third. Call Me Jate. Away racing in fourth. That is Casino Charlie. To the inside, 5 is Rakin' in the box. Sixth and back down pacing, there is Rigatores. Seventh on the inside is FALCON'S THAW. Got on the outside in eighth is Albion What Punchua. Ninth and trailing the field, that is Stinky FLYNN. As they roll over to the opening quarter. Through the initial quarter, 28 and 2/5, and Masterpiece, your even money punter's choice, leads it here by length and 3/4 to the inside. Sharpenet, the mare, is tracking along in second. Call Me Jate is unhurried on the inside in third. First to flush on the outside in fourth, that is Rakin' in the box, towing along Rigatores up on the outside in fifth. Sixth on the outside of the cover flow is Albion What Punchwell. Seventh is Casino Charlie. Eighth on the outside is Stinky FLYNN, and ninth and trailing the field. Shuffled back there is FALCON'S THAW as they step around the clubhouse, turning on over to the half. They're halfway home in 58 and 2/5. A well-rated second pintle there at 30 seconds flat. Off the turn and setting sail down the backside, and Masterpiece on the inside with the lead here by a half. Rakin' in the box is still grinding it out. First over the outside, racing in 2. Up on the outside, second over there in third. That is Rigatores. Fading at the rail in fourth is Sharpenet. Third over the outside in 5 is Albion What Punchwell. Sixth is Call Me Jade. Seventh on the outside there is a roll by 3/4 and 126 flat. They pick the tempo up quite considerably here, and Masterpiece to the inside, but up on the outside, Rakin' in the box is winning a huge mile, still there, still coming to him as they turn to the top of Heartbreak Lane. Less than an eighth of a mile to go, and down the stretch they come. Rakin' in the box has struck the frontier to the inside. Masterpiece could not go with him. Here comes Sharpenet on the outside, Casino Charlie, but inside the final 16th, Rakin' in the box and the K-Man. Very close for second there. Time of the mile, 1:54 2/5. Rakin' in the box and a new lifetime mark. On to the winner's circle, the unofficial winner, the third race, timed in 1:54 and 2/5. First stop to establish a new lifetime mark. Second win in 2003. Here's the 5, Rakin' in the box. A 3-year-old bay colt by Park Place out of a Betty's Miss. She by Landslide. Is owned by Gary Adams of Circleville, Ohio. Trained by Jerry Kutschbach. Very nicely handled here this evening by winning driver, the K-Man, Kayne Kauffman. Rakin' in the box, new lifetime mark, 1:54 2/5. So official, 5-3 exacta, $94 even, 5-3-1 try, 471.20, 471.20. Well, the horses are on the track and part of the pose for the fourth race. Invitational handicap pace of 1 mile, a purse of $9,000. Win, place, show, exacta, trifecta, early pick 3 wagering. Races 4, 5, and 6, there are no changes. Presenting the invitational handicap pacers, the one is Powerhouse Sabra, owned by Runyon, Springer, and Cole. They're all of the Buckeye State, trained by J. Doug Lowe with Jeff Fouch. Number 2 is Norman Feeney, owned by Leslie Lane of Ostrander, Ohio, trained by Jim Pollock Jr. with a K-Man, Kayne Kauffman. Number 3 is Moe's Muffler Shop, owned by Reed Racing of Newark, Ohio, and Mona Almond of Fort Lauderdale, Florida, trained and driven by Dean Collins. Number 4 is Brad's Gold, owned by Darby's Edge Stable, Joe Descala Jr., Siad Mullinex, they're of Ohio and New York, trained by Virgil Morgan Jr., Brett Miller. The 5 is My Pal Mark, owned by Dolores Wilson of Columbus, Ohio, trained by Joe Wilson, Jim Dailey. And number 6 is Super Gizmo, owned by Blatchford Presser and Presser. They're all of the Buckeye State, trained by Ron Potter, Dan Noble in the sulky. Oh, Field swings to the back stretch. Field in motion. They're all fan pacing and firing away from the outside. There goes My Pal Mark. In between horses there, that is Brad's Gold. Driving up from the rail, there is Powerhouse Sabra. Dropping in, racing in fourth. That is Super Gizmo. Along the inside in 5 is Norman Feeney. In 6th and trailing the field, that is Moe's Muffler Shop. As they wheel around the first turn and over to the opening quarter, and now clearing to the front end here. My Pal Mark and Jim Dailey has set this one down on the front end here. Brad's Gold is going along in 2 as they race by the opening quarter in 20 26 and 4/5. Marching on by the stands for the first time in the Invitational Handicap. On top of the field, My Pal Mark leads them here by a length and a quarter. Rolling out of the wire with 5/8 of a mile remaining. Brad's Gold is stalking in second. Powerhouse Sabra along the inside is racing in third. First to Flush and coming with a rush. Here comes Super Gizmo. First over the outside, racing in fourth. Towing along Norman Feeney. Second over the outside in 5 and 6th and trailing the field at a ground-saving journey there is Moe's Muffler Shop. They went by the half. They're halfway home in 56 and 2/5. Off the turn and setting sail down the backside. And on top, My Pal Mark leads it here by a length and a quarter. But now grinding it out first over the outside, racing in 2. That is Super Gizmo. Along the inside, Brad's Gold is watching over the doing leaders from third. Second over the outside, gapping the cover in fourth. That is Norman Feeney. Buried at the rail in 5 is Powerhouse Sabra. 6th and trailing the field, Moe's Muffler Shop as they went by 3/4 and 1:24 and 2/5. They'll pace the final turn and head for home. And My Pal Mark has got a recall thus far, trying to make it a pulling a winning one here. Into the outside, Super Gizmo is fading in second. Off the turn and less than an 1/8 of a mile to go. And down the stretch they come with the invite. My Pal Mark is being set down for the drive. Brad's Gold is taking a shot at him from the pocket, is coming to him and coming on. But at the wire, My Pal Mark holding sway. Finishing second was the 4, Brad's Gold. It was very close for third. The top of the mile, 1:52, 4/5. My Pal Mark and Jim Dailey. For the 4th race, Invitational Handicap. Here's the 5, My Pal Mark. A 6-year-old brown gelding by Tudor Scooter out of a Madam Board member mare. She by Chairman of the Board. Is owned by Dolores Wilson of Columbus, Ohio. Trained by Joe Wilson. Nicely handled here this evening by winning driver Jim Dailey. The 5, My Pal Mark, takes the Invitational Handicap and 1:52, 4/5. 5-4 exacta returns $10 even. 5-4-6 try, $21 even. Horses are on the track and pretty the pose for the 5th race. Conditioned pacers of 1 mile, a purse of $2,700. Win place show exacta trifecta wagering, a field of 10, no changes. The 1 is Billy's 6-shooter, owned by Billy and Opal Sizemore of Miamisburg, Ohio, trained and driven by Jeff Smith. The 2 is Attaboy Charlie, owned by Christopher and Kerry Beaver of Delaware, Ohio, trained by Chris Beaver with Kyle Waiter at the lines. Number 3 is Kentucky Kid, owned by Debbie Geiler of Pataskal, Ohio, trained and driven by Sandy Beatty. Number 4 is Caviar Jackson, owned by Judith Chafee and Clarence Chafee Jr. of Vienna, Virginia, trained by Jim Artledge Jr. with Brett Miller. Number 5 is Dot's Big Guy, owned by Joseph Shemaiah of Lexington, Kentucky, trained by Lamar Moody with Jeff Ace Nisonger. Number 6 is Dr. Gus, owned by Norman Kruger of Medina, Ohio, trained by Jim Kiesel with Jeff Fount. The 7 is Let's Rock, owned by John Perrin of Lebanon, Ohio, who also does the training, Dan Noble. The 8 is Sand Flying Dragon, owned by Michael Wetter of Middletown, Ohio, trained and driven by Jack Dailey. The 9 is Sure Smart. My Bud Light Long Shot of the Night is owned by Winchester Bay Acres Incorporated of Palo, Ohio, trained by Daryl Hoosier with the K-Man, Kayne Kauffman. And scoring from off the second tier is number 10, Windbreaker, owned by Clarence You Can Call Me Sonny DeLong of Orient, Ohio, trained and driven by Bob Harper. Wings to the back stretch. They're in the hands of the starter. Field in motion. Daryl Fan pacing and just as planned here from the outside. There goes Sure Smart off the wings of the starting gate. Driving up from the outside, there is the 6, Dr. Gus. Away racing in third is Billy's 6-shooter. To the inside, racing in fourth, that is Dot's Big Guy. Dropping in, racing in 5 is Attaboy Charlie. 6th is Windbreaker. 7th, that is Kentucky Kid. 8th along the inside is Caviar Jackson. 9th, that is Let's Rock. And 10th, and trailing the field, Sand Flying Dragon as they move over towards the opening quarter in 27 and 1/5. And Sure Smart leads the way here, but up on the outside, here comes Billy Six Shooter, and Billy Six Shooter is chasing after the lead here. And Billy Six Shooter and Jeff Smith to the front end here. Sure Smart will yield for a garden spot, racing in two. Dot's Big Guy is going along in third. Got to the outside, racing in fourth. Parked every step is Dr. Gus. Along the inside, racing in five is Attaboy Charlie as they step around the clubhouse, turning on over to the half, and Billy Six Shooter leads them to the half. They're halfway home in 57 seconds flat. A second panel at 29 and 4. Off the turn and starting their long journey down the backside, and Billy Six Shooter with the lead here by length and a quarter. Right there in the garden spot, racing in two. That is Sure Smart, a gap at two. Racing in third. That is Dot's Big Guy. First to flush on the outside, racing in fourth. Here comes Attaboy Charlie, sent underway. Second over the outside, racing in five. That is Windbreaker and swung up three wide of the outside. Here comes Caviar Jackson as they approach the 3/4 mile mark of the race. 3/4 in 1:25 and 3/5. They'll pace the final turn and head for home. On top, Billy Six Shooter with the lead, but now over the outside, Attaboy Charlie and three wide of the outside. In gear here is Caviar Jackson, and desperately looking for racing room is Sure Smart. Off the turn and less than an eighth of a mile to go, and down the stretch they come. Middle of the racetrack, Attaboy Charlie clinging to the front end here. Caviar Jackson is coming to him and coming on along with Sure Smart as they come to the wire. Attaboy Charlie in front. Sure Smart to go second. Third was the 4, Caviar Jackson, the top of the mile. 1:54 3/5. Attaboy Charlie. Stable 1:54 and 3/5 returns 10:40. Let's say 6:40, 6:44 for a purse of $6,000. Exactas and tries. A field of 8, no changes. The one is Mr. McGregor, owned by Winchester Bay Acres Incorporated of Palo, Ohio, trained by Daryl Hoosier with Kayne Kauffman. The 2 is Meadowland Tough Ted, owned by Hoover of Pataskala, Ohio, and Metters of Reynoldsburg, Ohio, trained by Mike Metters with Jamie Dunlap. Number 3 is Crown Time Big Ben, owned by Esther Crownover, MacArthur, Ohio, trained by Earl Owings with Jim Dailey. The 4 is Lifestream Mendale, owned by Reed Racing of Newark, Ohio, trained and driven by Dean Collins. The 5 is Pinnacle. The lessee is Dorothy Christie of Grove City, Ohio, trained by Mr. Todd Christie, Jeff Ace Nisonger. Number 6 is Noble Senator, owned by Marianne Kauffman of New Albany, Ohio, trained by Danny Collins with Jeff Fount. The 7 is Fritzy Cam, owned by the Darby's Edge Stable of London, Ohio, trained by Virgil Morgan Jr., Brett Miller, and then the outside of the 8 is Eddie Rocket, owned and trained by Sam Noble Jr. of Cedarville, Ohio. Sam Chip Noble III is in the sulky. Starter field in motion. Being sent on their way. They're all fan pacing and firing away. Middle of the track, there goes the 6. Noble Senator gets the first call. From the inside, there is Meadowland Tough Ted. Driving up from the outside, there is Eddie Rocket. Along the inside, racing in fourth, that is Crown Time Big Ben. Fifth is Lifestream Mendale. As they race around the first turn and over to the opening quarter. 6th is Mr. McGregor. 7th is Pinnacle, and 8th and trailing the field, Fritzy Cam. As they make their way towards the opening quarter. On top of the field, Noble Senator leads them through an opening quarter of 27 and 2/5. They'll march on by the stands for the first time and head on down to the half, and Noble Senator and Fount has this one out there on the front end by a length and 3/4 to the inside of Meadowland. Tough Ted is ranging in second. Eddie Rocket on the inside now comes to the outside, racing in third. Second over the outside, racing in fourth. Flushing that cover is Mr. McGregor. Inside, racing in 5, Crown Time Big Ben. Third over the outside, racing in 6th. As they near the halfway mile mark of the race, that is Pinnacle. They're at the half. They're halfway home in 56 and 3/5. Off the turn and driving down the backside and on top, Noble Senator leads it here by a length and 3/4. To the inside, Meadowland Tough Ted is hanging in there in second. First over on the outside, racing in third, that is Eddie Rocket. On the inside now with clearance to move to the outside in fourth, that is Crown Time Big Ben. Slipping up the inside, racing in 5, that is Livestream Mendale. To the outside in 6th is Mr. McGregor. Swung up 3 wide to the outside in 7th is Pinnacle, and 8th and trailing the field, Fritzy Cam. 3/4 in 1:24 and 1/5. They're pacing the final turn and heading to the top of the stretch. On top, Noble Senators trying to make every pull a winning one. Into the inside, racing into Meadowland Tough Ted. Off the turn in less than an eighth of a mile to go. And down the stretch they come. On top, Noble Senator, but over the outside, Fritzy Cam is charging hard and coming on. Fritzy Cam gets up to win it and sweeps the field here. Fritzy Cam very impressively in 1:52 4/5. Noble Senator was second. It was close side of the winner's circle. The unofficial winner, the 6th race, charging through the stretch to get up to win it, sweeping the entire field. Here's the 7 Fritzy Cam, a 6-year-old brown gelding by Cam Best out of a Lori's Diamond. She by No Nukes is owned by Darby's Edge Stable of London, Ohio, trained by Virgil Morgan Jr. Nicely handled here this evening by winning driver Brett Miller. Top of the mile, 152, 4/5. Very impressive here. Brett Miller gets his 3rd winning drive of the night behind the 7 Fritzy Cam, giving him a driving triple. 7-6 exacta, 138.80, 7-6-4 try, $1,294 even. The early pick 3 of 3, 5-2-7, 254.60. This race, welcome Airman First Class Adam Beatty from Dover, Delaware. Horses are on the track and printing the post for the 7th race. Conditioned pacers of 1 mile, a purse of $3,000. Win, play, show, exacta, trifecta wagering, a field of 9, no changes. The 1 is Noble Thor, owned by Gretchen Rosman and Jane Ferrian, both of Ohio, trained by Richard Rosman with Dan Noble. The 2 is JATE Rules, owned by Jerome Grogan of Cincinnati, Ohio, trained by Calvin Wright with Trent Tharps. Number 3 is Western Intent, owned by the National Trail Investment Company Incorporated of Bean Station, Tennessee, trained by Dan Ader with Kyle Ader at the lines. Number 4 is Civil War, owned by Richard Elwood of Lancaster, Ohio, trained by Rick Hartman with Billong Jr. The 5 is Best Cam Dragon, owned by Dennis Hertz of Columbus, Ohio, trained and driven by Bob Harper. Number 6 is Arts Candy, owned by Diana Lynn Malone of Waterford, Ohio, trained by Guy Malone with Sam Chipnoble III. Number 7 is Jack's Brother Joe. The lessee is also the trainer Patrick Landis of Lebanon, Ohio, Jeff Fount. The 8 is House of Sam, owned by Patricia Soulsby of Powell, Ohio, trained and driven by Rick Shout. And from the outside of the 9 is the Corner, owned by Cool Winds Farm of Lima, Ohio, trained by Harold Dick with Jim Dailey and the Sulky. Field in motion. Dolphin pacing and firing away from the inside. Noble Thor gets the first call. Middle of the racetrack, there is the 5 Best Cam Dragon. On the inside in between them, that is Western Intent, who is driving up and off stride with the 5 Best Cam Dragon as they race around the first turn and over to the opening quarter. And Western Intent is up on the front end here. Up on the outside, Jack's Brother Joe is challenging for the lead. Noble Thor along the inside is 3rd. 4th, that is JATE Rules. 5th on the inside is Arts Candy. 6th, that is Civil War, as they move by the opening quarter in 27 3/5 and past the stands for the first time. On top of the field, Jack's Brother Joe is clear to the front, but right back on the outside. Western Intent up to take the lead here. Jack's Brother Joe to go 2nd. 3rd is Noble Thor. 4th on the inside is JATE Rules. 1st to flush on the outside in 5. That is Arts Candy, who's towing along Civil War there to the outside in 6. 7th on the inside is House of Sam. To the outside in 8th is the Corner. 9th and trailing the field after that break is Best Cam Dragon, and Harper can see them all through a half of 57 4/5. Off the turn and driving down the backside and on top of the field, Jack's Brother Joe, but up on the outside, Arts Candy is applying heavy pressure on the outside and sticks ahead in front. Along the inside, racing in 2. That is Jack's Brother Joe along the inside, racing in 3rd as they reach the 3/4 mile mark of the race. Western Intent is battling back on the inside, but to the outside, Arts Candy is still there through 3/4 and 126 flat. They'll pace the final turn and head for home, and Western Intent looks to have shook off Arts Candy. The next challenger is Jack's Brother Joe, who awaits the passing lane and ready to swing 3 wide is Civil War. Off the turn in less than an 1/8 of a mile to go, and down the stretch they come. Western Intent with 3, but to the inside, Jack's Brother Joe is flying along with Noble Thor as they come to the wire. Jack's Brother Joe is getting up. Finishing 2nd was the 3 Western Intent. 3rd was the 1 Noble Thor. The time of the mile, 154 2/5. Jack's Brother Joe in a new lifetime mark. Trackside of the winner's circle, the unofficial winner of the 7th race, number 7 Jack's Brother Joe, Virtue of the Super Stretch, clocking the mile in 154 2 to establish a new lifetime mark. Jack's Brother Joe is a 3-year-old bay owned by Look Sharp out of a Tango in Paris mare. She by Big Towner. The lessee is also the trainer Patrick Landis of Lebanon, Ohio. Nicely handled here this evening by winning driver Jeff Fount. The 7 Jack's Brother Joe and Jeff Fount's new lifetime mark 154 2. 7-3-1-6 is now official. Exacta 7-3, $15 even, 7-3-1 try, 101.60. Stepping to the track, the one Crown Time Connect is owned by Esther Crownover of MacArthur, Ohio, trained by Earl Owings with Dan Noble. The two is Sam Storm, owned and trained by Sam Noble Jr. of Cedarville, Ohio, with Sam Chip Noble III. The 3, Capacity Crowd, is out sick. The 4 is the Maestro, owned by Carol Gamble of Bradford, Ohio, trained by Steve Livingston with Bob Harper. The 5 is Bell's Big Guy, owned by Marguerite Mesri of Zanesville, Ohio, trained by Herbert Mesri with Jeff Fount. Number 6 is Grandpa Ike, owned by Charter Bryant of Cleveland, Ohio, trained and driven by Tom Hall. The 7 is This Old Art of Mine, owned by Reed Racing of Newark, Ohio, trained and driven by Dean Collins. Number 8 is Come On VC Song, owned by Jerry Sommers of Pickerington, Ohio, trained by Mike Metters with Jamie Dunlap. And for the outside of the 9 is Henry Clay, owned by James Thomas and Peter Allison of Ponte Vedra Beach, Florida, trained by Virgil Morgan Jr., Brett Miller. In the sulky. Swings of the backstretch, field in motion. They're all fan pacing and firing away from the inside. There goes Crown Time Connect, gets the first call. Right alongside that is the Maestro driving up from the outside. There is Henry Clay, and Henry Clay very impressively here crosses over to take the lead by a length and a half. Into the inside, Crown Time Connect is racing in second. The Maestro got away racing in third. A gap of 3 racing in fourth. That is Sam Storm dropping in racing in 5. That is Grandpa Ike. 6th on the inside is Bell's Big Guy. 7th there on the inside, that is This Old Art of Mine, and 8th and trailing the field. Come On VC Song by the opening quarter in a very hot 26 and 2/5 in your 2 to 5 punter's choice. Henry Clay and Brett Miller rolling under the wire with 5/8 of a mile remaining. Leads the way here by a length and a half. To the inside, Crown Time Connect is right there in the garden spot, racing in 2 as they bank around the clubhouse, turning on over to the half. On top, Henry Clay with the lead here. Crown Time Connect is right there racing in 2. First over on the outside, racing in third. That is Grandpa Ike. As they paced by the half, they were halfway home and 55 and 4/5 off the turn and setting sail down the backside. On top of the field, Henry Clay has got a recall thus far. Leads it by a length and a quarter. Grinding it out first over on the outside, racing in 2. That is Grandpa Ike. Along the inside, Crown Time Connect is racing in third. Perfectly positioned here. Second over the outside, racing in fourth and tipping 3 deep there. There goes Bell's Big Guy. 3/4 and 124 and 2/5. They'll pace the final turn and head for home. And Henry Clay and Brett Miller is not even touched him yet and swung up on the outside. That is Grandpa Ike, 3 wide on the outside. Bell's Big Guy awaiting the passing lane. Crown Time Connect to the top of the stretch. Less than an 1/8 of a mile to go. And down the stretch they come. Henry Clay with the lead here, but Crown Time Connect is coming to him and coming onto the super stretch. Crown Time Connect is getting up. Finishing second of the mile was the 5, Bell's Big Guy. It was very close for third. May have been the 4, the Maestro over the 9. Henry Clay, the top of the mile, 153 4/5. Crown Time Connect in a new lifetime mark. He's the 1 Crown Time Connect, scoring here through virtue of the super stretch. A 4-year-old bait outing by Village Connection out of a Crown Time Cheerio mare. She by Good to See You is owned by Esther Crownover of MacArthur, Ohio, trained by Earl Owings. Nicely handled here this evening by winning driver Dan Noble. Second twin in 2003, home in a new lifetime mark, 153 and 4 after a trip of a lifetime. The 1 Crown Time Connect in Dan Noble. Photo reveals 1-5-4-9. 1-5 in a dead heat for show. 1-5 in a dead heat for show, 4 and 9. $59.40. Ninth race, claiming handicap pace of 1 mile, a purse of $3,600. This is the Bacardi 03 Challenge. Exactas and tries, a field of 10, no changes. The 1 is Chris Crombie, owned by Paul Swaney of Xenia, Ohio, trained by Tom Myers with Justin Hall. The 2 is Gigabyte Bluegrass. Shannon Reardon's Bacardi 03 selection here is owned by Daniel Stone of Lebanon, Ohio, trained by Eddie Pulling with Danny Noble. The 3 is Napoleon Sabra, owned by Michael Wetter of Middletown, Ohio, trained and driven by Jack Dailey. The 4 is TYR Bluegrass, owned by Michelle Omer of Galloway, Ohio, trained by Brad Omer with Bob Harper. The 5 is Dockside, owned and trained by Robert Rogan of Bell Fountain, Ohio. Jim Dailey is up. The 6 is Montana Stan, owned by Amanda Pikas of Hilliard, Ohio, trained by Virgil Morgan Jr., Brett Miller. The 7 is Bearcat Hanover, owned by Roy Swaney of Spring Valley, Ohio, trained by David Lowe with Sam Chip Noble III. Number 8 is Swingtown, owned and trained by Norma Gardner of Salina, Ohio, Jeff Fout. The 9 is Hit the Beach, owned by Joseph Shemaiah of Lexington, Kentucky, trained by Lamar Moody with Jeff Ace Nisonger. And scoring from off the second tier is number 10, Fire 1 and 2, owned and trained by Tommy Lee Smith of Lebanon, Ohio. Tony Hall is in the challenger this week from Atlanta, Georgia. Shannon Reardon. In the hands of the starter, field in motion. They're all fan pacing at a very nice start here, flashing some early speed from the middle of the track. There goes the 5 Dockside. In between horses is TYR Bluegrass. From furthermore to the inside, Napoleon Sabra. As they race around the first turn and over to the opening quarter in a royal scramble for command, and off to the rodeo we go in here. And on top from the inside, Napoleon Sabra and Jack Dailey with the lead. Up on the outside, racing into TYR Bluegrass is looking to duck and tuck there as they race by the opening quarter in 27 1/5. Passing the stands for the first time and heading on down to the half, and Napoleon Sabra taking no prisoners here. Bearcat Hanover to the outside, looks like he'll be taking the long mile. The outside racing into TYR Bluegrass to the inside is racing in third. Second over the outside in fourth is Dockside. Buried at the rail in 5, that is Gigabyte Bluegrass. To the outside racing in sixth as they race around the clubhouse, turning on over to the halfway mile mark of the race. That is Chris Crombie. On top of the field from the inside, Napoleon Sabra leads them through a half. They're halfway home in a wicked 55 4/5. Off the turn and driving down the backside. Very fast for these. On top, middle of the track, Bearcat Hanover now swung up 3 wide to the outside. That is Dockside, and Dockside has won a huge mile as they go down the backside from the inside. Now to the inside with the lead, Bearcat Hanover. On the outside, racing in 2. That is Dockside. Now swung up 3 wide to the outside. Here comes Montana Stan. 3/4 and 125 flat, racing the final turn. And on top of the field, Bearcat Hanover with the lead. Dockside, and now up on the outside, racing in 3. That is Montana Stan, and awaiting the passing lane, Gigabyte Bluegrass. Off the turn in less than 1/8 of a mile to go, and down the stretch they come. Bearcat Hanover on the outside. Montana Stan is coming to him and coming on as they come to the final 16th. Montana Stan, and Brett Miller's got his 4th winning drive of the night. Finishing second was the 7 Bearcat Hanover. Third was the 5 Dockside. Time of the mile, 155 1/5. Stan, a 5-year-old bake outing by Jenna's Beach Boy out of a Tracy's Jackpot. She by Albatross. Is owned by Amanda Pietkus of Hilliard, Ohio. Trained by Virgil Morgan Jr. Nicely handled here this evening by winning driver Brett Miller. That's 4 wins on this evening's card for Brett Miller, giving him 4 wins. That's the 3rd win in 2003 for the 6 Montana Stan. Home in 155 1/5. $675 is now official. 6-7 exacta 35.80. 675 try 83.40. A pace of 1 mile, condition pace, a purse of $3,500. The 1 is Powerful Sam, owned by James Grandstaff to Washington Courthouse, Ohio, trained by Dan Ader with Kyle Ader at the lines. Number 2 is Samarama, owned by Marianne Georges of Wilmington, Ohio, trained by Larry Tinch with Jack Dailey. Number 3 is Our General, owned by Reed Racing of Newark, Ohio, trained and driven by Dean Collins. The 4 is Noble Alex, owned by Jim Shalips of Cincinnati, Ohio, trained and driven by Ricky Heitman. The 5 is Magic Dart, owned by Roger Morlock of Valley City, Ohio, trained by Jim Kiesel, Jeff Fount. The 6 is Good Goin' Sam, owned by Dale Horney of Washington Courthouse, Ohio, trained and driven by Jeff Smith. The 7 is Lots of Light, owned and trained by J. Tom Gray of Dayton, Ohio, Brett Miller. The 8 is Hidden Past, owned by Robert and Suzanne Berger of San Jose, California, trained by Peter Foley with Jeff Ace Nisonger. From the outside of the 9 is Doc's Hijack, owned by the Ellicott Shaker Motors Incorporated of Beechwood, Ohio, trained by Rick Shout with Jamie Dunlap. And scoring from off the second tier is number 10, Keoki Cam, owned by David Roop of Jonesville, Virginia, trained by Ted Roop, Bob Harper. A field of 10 swings to the backstretch. Field in motion. They're all fan pacing and firing away. Middle of the track, there goes the 3-hour General. From the inside, there is Powerful Sam. Driving up from the outside, there is the 5 Magic Dart, and Hidden Past is on the go as well. They're 3 deep as they wheel around the first turn and over to the opening quarter, and Hidden Past is intent on the front end tier, and Nisonger is sending him right on there. Our General is in the garden spot, racing in 2, away racing in 3rd. That is Magic Dart, away racing in 4th. That is Powerful Sam by the opening quarter, and it's a quick one. 26-2 as they pass the stands for the first time and head on down to the half, and Hidden Past and Ace Nisonger on the front end tier, only to get by a length and a half. Our General is in the garden spot, racing in 3. Magic Dart is going along in 3rd. Powerful Sam is right there in the inside, racing in 4th. Keoki Cam races in 5. Caught to the outside of there in 6th is Doc's Hijack. 7th is Samarama. 8th along the inside is Noble Alex. Then we come down to the 2 trailers, which are Good Goin' Sam, and the 10th and final horse there is Lots of Light. As they race by the half, they went halfway home in 56 2/5. Off the turn and driving down the backside, and on top of the field, Hidden Past leads them by a length and a quarter through that second panel with 30 seconds flat. First over on the outside, racing in 2nd. That is the 10-horse Keoki Cam, who's at the leader's wheel disc in 2. Along the inside, racing in 3rd. That is Our General, who's watching over these doing leaders. Second over the outside, racing in 4th. That is Doc's Hijack as they wheeled by 3/4 in 1:25 and 1/5. They pace the final turn and head for home, and on top, Hidden Past with the lead here. Now he's being asked for more and opens up by 2 as they turn to the top of the stretch. Less than an 1/8 of a mile to go. Driving through Power Alley and on top of the field, Hidden Past is rocking away from this field as they drive towards the wire. On top, Hidden Past is going to roll gate to wire. Hidden Past, very impressive here. Getting up for second looked like the 1-horse Powerful Sam. Third of the mile was the 3-hour General. The time of the mile, 1:54 flat. Hidden Past and Ace Nisonger. Now reporting trackside to the winner's circle, the official winner of the 10th race, conditioned pace, timed at 1:54 flat. Here's the 8 Hidden Past, a 4-year-old bay horse by world champion Life Sign out of a Keep Current mare, she by JATE Lobel. Owned by Robert and Susan Berger of San Jose, California, trained by Peter Foley, nicely handled here this evening by Jeff Ace Nisonger. Hidden Past, gate to wire, 1:54 flat.
Claiming Pacers leaving the paddock for this evening's 8th race, a field of 8. There are no changes. Here is the 1 Star Prospect, owned by David Lowe of Mechanicsburg, Ohio, trained by David Lowe, Dan Noble. The 2 Glenview Fritz, owned by Poling and Stone of Ohio, trained by Eddie Poling, Tony Hall. The 3 Osborne's Falcon, owned by Tom Gray of Dayton, Ohio, trained by Tom Gray, Jeff Fout. The 4 Miraculous Viking, owned by Carsey and Luther of Ohio, trained by Robert Carsey, Kyle Ader. The 5 Helsa Sam, owned by the Shout Stable of Florida, trained by Rick Shout and also driven by Rick Shout. The 6 Appointment Lag, owned by Murphy and Stevens, trained by Roy Murphy, Bob Harper. The 7 Sam's Mega Bucks, owned by Wallace Osborne of Ohio, trained by Mike Metters, Jamie Dunlap. Rounding out the field, the 8 Town Dance, owned by the Barnett Zimmerman Limited Liability Corporation of Illinois, trained by Virgil Morgan Jr., Brett Miller. Field of 8 Claiming Pacers. Field sent on their way, and it's Glenview Fritz getting the first call off stride. Star Prospect on a break. Glenview Fritz opens up the lead now by 3 lengths along the inside. Osborne's Falcon up on the outside. Miraculous Viking looks to drop in second. Away fourth row goes Helsa Sam, followed by Sam's Megabucks Town Dance. The early trailer is Star Prospect after the early miscue. Field of 7 approach the opening quarter-mile marker, and it's Glenview Fritz dictating the tempo here. They approach the opening quarter. Glenview Fritz, they hit the opening quarter in 29 and 1 into the stretch for the first time, and it's Glenview Fritz opening up his lead to 2 lengths. Miraculous Viking will track that one from second. Osborne's Falcon, he's 2 lengths back in third. A 2-length gap back to Helsa Sam, followed by Sam's Megabucks, Town Dance, Star Prospect, far back into the clubhouse turn. Leading the way is Glenview Fritz and Tony Hall still carving out the fractions. Racing in second is Miraculous Viking. Away third is Osborne's Falcon. Racing in fifth is Helsa Sam. They hit the half. 58 seconds flat. They curve onto the backstretch, and it's Glenview Fritz extending his lead to 3 lengths. Racing in second, Miraculous Viking, a length back to Osborne's Falcon. All on the inside, Helsa Sam. First move on the outside is Sam's Megabucks. Town Dance has that cover. Trailing the field, Star Prospect. The field, the first flight of 6, approaching the 3/4 mile marker. It's Glenview Fritz, headed all his way and still does. The lead is 2. Miraculous Viking, the 2-hole trip, second. Racing in third is Osborne's Falcon. First over, Sam's Megabucks. Town Dance, well placed, second over. Helsa Sam along the inside. They trip 3/4, 126 and 1. They wind their way to the top of the stretch. Glenview Fritz popping out of the pocket. Miraculous Viking, 3 deep. Town Dance in the stretch. Miraculous Viking, a slim lead. Glenview Fritz trying to fight back far outside. Town Dance is charging hard in deep stretch. Miraculous Viking bracing himself for the challenge of Town Dance. Miraculous Viking holds on. Town Dance second. Up for third was Sam's Mega Bucks. The time 1:55 and 4. Returning to the winner's circle with his second victory in a row is the 4 Miraculous Viking, owned by Carsey and Luther, both of Ohio, trained by Robert Carsey, driven to victory by Kyle Ader. For Kyle Ader, that's his second winner of the night. The 4 Miraculous Viking paying $540, $360, $3 in the winner's circle. The 4 Miraculous Viking. The exacta 4 and 8, 17, 20. The try 4, 8 and 7, 73, 20. Pacers leaving the paddock for this evening's 12th race. Exacta trifecta wagering, superfecta wagering. Here's the 1 Studley Lamont, owned by Raleigh and Smith of Kentucky and Ohio. Tommy Smith trains Tony Hall. The 2 Staley Lane, owned by Marvin Go Down of Ohio, trained and driven tonight by Kayne Kauffman. The scratch the 3 Traditional Frank Sick. The 4 Cowboy Casino, owned and trained by Ken Drake, Chip Noble drives. The 5 Longing for Home, owned by Aline Bainter of Ohio, trained by Virgil Morgan Jr., Brett Miller. The 6 Dr. Jones, owned by the ATS Stables Incorporated of Kentucky, trained by Ron Waller, Jeff Fout. The 7 The Terrific Towel, owned and trained by John Perrin, Sandy Beatty drives. The 8 will be Sky High Rebo, owned by Melby Olber of Ohio, trained by Ann Hildebrand, Dan Noble. The 9 Cincy Maynard, owned by Tom Price of Cincinnati, Ohio, trained and driven by Jack Dailey. Rounding out the field, the 10 Whiskey Sour, owned by Kopiak, trained by Ron Taubert, driven by Ron Taubert. Line up, ready for the start as they move on to the backstretch for this evening's 12th race. Field sent on their way in the middle of the track, Longing for Home, leaving well along the inside of Staley Lane, using his rail to his advantage. Studley Lamont on the outside, Cowboy Casino into the first turn. Longing for Home clears and takes a length lead. Staley Lane yields in second. Cowboy Casino drops in third, followed by Studley Lamont. Racing in fifth comes Whiskey Sour, followed by Dr. Jones and the Terrific Towels. They approach the opening quarter-mile marker. Brett Miller has put the favorite Longing for Home on the point off the opening quarter, 27-3 into the stretch for the first time. Longing for Home opens up his lead by 2 lengths. Dailey Lane, the perfect trip tonight, second. Racing in third, Cowboy Casino. Studley Lamont racing in fourth. Whiskey Sour a length back in fifth, followed by Dr. Jones, a terrific towel. A length back to Sky High Rebo. CINCY Maynard 10 lengths from the lead. Into the clubhouse turn, the final time. Longing for Home dictating the tempo here. The lead is a length. Staley Lane second off the half-mile marker, 56 4/5. Onto the back stretch they go. Longing for Home still leads it. Staley Lane a tight second. 2 lengths farther back to Cowboy Casino on the outside. Whiskey Sour second over Dr. Jones along the inside. Studley Lamont third over the terrific towel, followed by Sky High Rebo. CINCY Maynard still 10 lengths from the lead. Into the far turn, Brett Miller steps on the gas with Longing for Home. It opens up by 4. Staley Lane racing in second. Up into third there is Whiskey Sour along the inside. Cowboy Casino 3 wide. Dr. Jones into the far turn, 3/4, 1:25-2. Longing for Home. It's his race to lose here. He's out there by 5. Staley Lane racing in second. On the inside, Cowboy Casino back to third, top of the stretch. Longing for Home in front by 7 lengths. Racing in second, Staley Lane along the inside, Cowboy Casino. This one's over. Roll the credits. Longing for Home gets it by 8. Tight photo for second between the 4. Cowboy Casino flying the terrific towel. Staley Lane all in a 3
Tracks out of the
photo
winner's
for
circle,
second.
the unofficial winner of the 12th and final race. Number 5, Longing for Home. A 5-year-old bay gelding by JATE out of a Most Precious One mare. She by Albatross. Is owned by Eileen Painter of Columbus, Ohio. Trained by Virgil Morgan Jr. Nicely handled here this evening by wedding driver Brett Miller. Brett Miller, a sensational evening here at Scioto Downs. 5 wins for Mr. Brett Miller, solidifying himself as Scioto Downs' top driver. Longing for Home gives Brett Miller his 5th winning drive of the night. Longing for Home, new lifetime mark, 1:54 3/5. So official, 5-4-7-2 is now official. 5-4 exacta, $7 even. 5-4-7 trifecta returns $64.